The school to prison pipeline. This term describes how students are pushed out of schools and into the criminal justice system. But how does this happen anyway? Well, the tale is as old as time. Let's learn about it.
Schools' disproportionate disciplinary action and ill treatment towards Black students has been an issue across the entire United States since and even before the desegregation that began after Brown v. Board of Education. Schools' use of suspension, expulsion, and even arrests have affected Black students especially, and the implicit bias behind this is documented.
The educators are failing the students. As a mentor, as a guider, as a teacher, the student is being failed by their educator. A teacher may overlook like a disrespectful comment from like a white student, but like a black student or like a Hispanic student may get suspended for like a similar disrespectful comment. They may engage in the same behavior, but the white student will get off more, or like they'll have like less of a punishment.
Students suspended or expelled are more likely to drop out and be arrested. Schools with officers on staff also have much higher rates of arrest and use of force by large margins. Mistrust between students and school systems is brewed because of relationships like these. These patterns are present in the Athens-Clarke County school system and set up students not only to end up in incarceration, but also to be ill-equipped for a job market that fights with automation and technology far more advanced than in previous generations.
Unfortunately, students of color aren't the only ones at risk of falling into this pipeline. Students with disabilities are more than twice as likely to receive an out of school suspension than students without disabilities. And they make up 12% of the overall student population, yet 55% of all students involved in a school related arrest, 58% of all students placed in seclusion, and 75% of all students physically restrained at school.
Many schools have trouble finding ways to correct the behavior and disobedience of some of their students. Students in public schools come from backgrounds just as diverse as the county the school system resides in. The issues these students experience are just as diverse. The ACLU reported data from the 2015-2016 school year. Nationally, school children lost over 11 million days of instruction as a result of out-of-school suspension. Nationally, students lost instruction at a rate of 23 days lost per 100 days enrolled. Black students lost 66 days of instruction compared to just 14 days of white students. Again, by 100 days enrolled. Students fight, argue, and verbally accost each other every day. Children also navigate relationships, family issues, and many other forms of conflict from their lives at home, and that unresolved turmoil follows them into school. When students break the rules, schools use suspension, ISS, and write-ups alongside out-of-school suspension to reprimand deviancy. These measures have never been very effective, but schools have long been scarce for alternatives. Restorative justice is a form of conflict resolution that brings both the offender and the victim into a conversation with a mediator and allows both parties to state their perspectives of the conflict and work together on that resolution. Studies of school-based restorative justice indicate these practices develop relational capacity, improve school connectedness, promote self-regulation and conflict resolution skills, and increase social capital. Some schools already use restorative justice practices to resolve conflicts and have done so for roughly the past 20 years. The Georgia Conflict Center works with the Cedar Shoals High School using these methods already. The Georgia Conflict Center quotes Aaron Carter, an assistant principal at Cedar Shoals High School, on their website. "I can't tell you all enough how grateful we are for your restorative work with our students. The only thing we want to figure out is how do we get you here more often?" Our video would focus on making restorative justice practices a part of everyday faculty and teacher conduct. The video would inform faculty and staff on the negative outcomes of typical punitive measures, the purpose of restorative justice practices, and how they can help resolve a conflict between students without keeping kids out of class or giving them a harmful reputation or record.
Hi. Okay, so now that we've talked about the intervention, and what it's going to address as a social problem and our approach and things like that, let's talk about the process objectives and the activities that need to be implemented with it to achieve the goals and the intended outcomes that we want. So, for the process objectives, there's mainly two. They go hand in hand with each other. So for one, for school systems to use more restorative justice practices, and for two, for schools to have other available tools other than suspensions, write-ups, and other expulsionary or exclusionary actions to help address conflicts in schools that would better help the student rather than punish them in a way. And so for the school systems to use more restorative justice practices, our activity is a training video. And so it could be helpful coming out to school systems and helping school systems become more open, more available, and able to use restorative justice practices to have other tools available, just to not only have these three things you can do and nothing else, and just have more options available. For the second one, we're thinking still like a training video, and maybe have a digital or physical manual and or training that isn't a video or can be video, either one, to help schools lessen the suspension and the write-up punishments, and instead implement other tools better suited for students, just better quality of life, but also better for the students as well in the long run. And then moving on to describe the human and the financial resources that are needed for this intervention. For the human resources, we need schools who are willing to participate in this. That's a given, but it's true. We need that. We need schools who will give time for training, who are available and who are actively wanting to train. We need to do evidence-based research and have approval from people who are in charge of this. We need people to come and actually train the students, or sorry, not the students, the schools and things like that. And financially, on the other side, financially, we need schools to maybe give some money for training equipment. It's more time, but there's also some financial needs like paper for like the manual, for like the manuals or notes, the training video itself, maybe like making a training video. You need to edit it, you need to produce it, you need to write a script. Just the whole entire video will cost money itself. It doesn't have to be on the school, but the training video itself will cost money. And then also the training itself. Having a professional train the schools, that will also take money, human resources and financial resources.
Our intervention works to engage the staff in practices of restorative justice in order to provide cultural competency and combat the school-to-prison pipeline through the administration. As a result, the school staff and school board are significant stakeholders in this issue. The school staff and school board would be required to undergo training through our interventions and are given the opportunity to address issues that they find within their schools that the program has not already addressed. Every school is unique, and various socioeconomic issues are influential to all the lives of the students. We must have the utmost cooperation of the school staff and school board in completing training programs to ensure that our efforts are being carried out. Furthermore, it is important but not necessary that we have the support of the parents. A barrier that can be assumed is pushback from the parents of the students. Parents play a major role in the students' susceptibility to issues outside the classroom. If the teaching staff is working to eradicate the pipeline systemically, but the parents are encouraging bias at home, the goals will prove counterproductive. We see in modern times the censoring of books, changing of history curriculum to be more appealing to the white majority, and a debate against the teachings of critical race theories in school. Our training program would address these issues and more. The training is not to bring down a specific group, race, or system, but to emphasize the faults within its system and society, which work to oppress other groups. The zero-sum paradigm believes that if one group is working to better themselves, they as a result will be taking resources and efforts away from another group. This is a false statement. If we are able to level the playing field socially, economically, and politically, the whole community would benefit. These issues could be remedied with an initial town hall between program managers, school board, school staff, and parents. It would provide an opportunity for an open discussion between all parties to understand the imperativeness of this program. Furthermore, once this program is implemented, we can begin to collect data and analyze its effects on the students' mental health, behavioral trends, the rate of which disabled students are identified, and the rate of suspensions in and out of school. We believe that this program could be a key factor to reformative justice within the school system by attacking it from a different perspective. There are many groups focused on youth empowerment and mentorships, which would provide a sense of support to the students. However, when fighting against an issue that is larger than themselves in a systemic manner, it is not enough. We need more support coming from the school system itself.